Hermagan, hi. Don't know why I was made a StreamYards is on one lately. Man, good God. Julie, I was hoping you'd be here because it's a little earlier your time. Whew, here we are again. I know when I did Ed Kemper and antisocial personality disorder, which I didn't go into a whole lot because that's going to come up in a lot of future streams, like the Elliot Rogers stream. We'll delve into it more, but consensus was where people were like, can we just talk about and like watch Ed Kemper more? And so we're going to watch his 1984 interview, but without the commentary from like any psychiatrists or anything. And then I found an interview from 1991. So let me put on my little, because if somebody comes in and the subject matters a little too much, I want to give people a heads up, but I also don't want to say 20 million times during stream, like, oh, it's, heavy subject matter. We're talking about Ed Kemper, man. Like, let me say hi, Julie. How you doing? Blush. How you doing, baby doll? Gutta. Yes, Jarella. Daytime stream. Chef Mike Koo. I'm sure more people always wondering. It takes a bit. And I don't have like a super long intro. Maybe I should get like a 10-minute intro. And just be like, hey. So, other spooky stream before I forget, Slender Man. I thought I was hoping I was going to be able to find like a short, concise video, just like the original Slender Man story, Contraire Mon Frere. That has evolved and gotten so big. We're probably going to end up maybe watching a couple of shorts or like part of a video. And I think we're all going to be more interested, like learn what Slender Man is, refresh our memories. And then I think we're going to focus more on the true crime case associated with it and all of that stuff. Hey, Annie, how you doing? Welcome in. So I'm going to be working on finding stuff for that over the weekend. Kick has posted a couple times. There's some other things I kind of want to talk about. So I might do a Kick stream. I might do just like a whatever stream because, again, sensitive topics. Some shit went down with Eugene Cuny. It's a lot. It's been a lot. So keeping up. Oh, and speaking of true crime, so remember Grant Amato that we talked about? The guy that got obsessed with the cam girl and was like bankrupting himself and family and ended up offing his family because they put the kibosh on that. He was somehow involved. If you've ever watched Ghost Adventures, Aaron, he was like the bigger guy with the beard. His ex-wife and Grant Amato were like, somehow she got convicted. There was like a murder. He got involved in like a murder for hire case. So I'll have to look stuff up for that and we'll cover that on like a regular stream or something. Oh, yeah. And since a lot of the spooky armchair psychology, we talk about a lot of sketchy stuff, weird creepypastas, serial killers, just people going sideways. You have some new member emojis. This one I titled Sketchy because we can be like, oh my God, that's sketchy. And then there's people like Grant Amato and Ed Kemper where it's like, yo, they for sure needed a 5150. So please enjoy your new member emojis. I'm trying to work on the duck with the Jersey duck nails, and it is proving difficult. I'm trying to work like with what's available. The AI does not do hands very well. I'm getting hands with like 3 fingers, 4 fingers. And I keep thinking of those hands everybody uses in the memes where like they've been put, FFG used them on the BBJ calendar. I saw there was a meme with what's his face, the guy that was running around Wisconsin and like went to court. There was like a meme of him crying with the hands. I'll work on it. We'll see. So today we are going to watch 2 interviews with Ed Kemper. Again, the first one we watched with like a political analysis or a psychological analysis. And that guy left a lot out. And I've got the banner. And again, heads up, this gets dark. I mean, Ed Kemper killed his grandparents. He killed his mother, did bad no things to her corpse, killed 7 young women. Like, so it's, it's heavy. And then there was, like I said, I found another interview from 1991. So it's gonna be a good time. Oh, it's Jarella. It struggles with hands. It struggles with feet. Even there was it was like Super Bowl or something, and I made like a little Raven like community tab, like enjoy your Super Bowl or whatever. And Detective Cochise commented on the community tab post, and he was like, "Does that Raven have like 3 feet?" And I was like, "It sure does." I mean, it's working on it. So is AI really going to take over and kill us all if it can't get hands right? I I don't know. That's another stream. There's so many streams I want to do. But that's why it's a series. Because there's so much to talk about. We could talk about AI and the potential of it. Like there's so much. Like would you have a neural link put in? Endless topics. It's great. I know, Skynet. Yep, Skynet's on the way, baby. All right. So we're going to go into the 1984 interview first. And then I've got the 1991. So Jarella says Elon Musk has spoken at length about the topic, and it's interesting to be sure. And by interesting, I mean unnerving. Oh, it is. It is. And there's stories, right, of like people that have been working in like secret government, like high-tech corporation labs. And there's one well-known story that a lot of people have talked about where like these AI robots they had went crazy and like killed everybody. And we can talk about that. We'll talk about it. Again, I've seen it's confirmed, it's unconfirmed. Wild things happen. Grain of salt. We're just here to talk about weird shit and have fun, right? It's not that serious. Okay. All right. Ed Kemper was arrested in 1973. He turned himself in. Again, he had killed his grandparents when he was like 15. Went on to kill 7 co-eds. And then killed his mother. And after he killed his mother, he turned himself in. So, hey, Tank Girl. All right, let's go, BB.
I'm not an authority. I'm someone who has been a murderer for almost...
And I know the sound isn't that great. There's that weird sound in the background, but we'll try and get through it as best we can. If it becomes too much, we'll skip to the other interview.
20 years.
Can you say how many people might be doing crimes like you were doing?
It would be a guess, but it's not. It's far more than 35. It isn't that impossible in this society. It happens.
Are there more people?
They didn't give up.
How many?
She didn't give up. I did.
And keep in mind, Ed Kemper, there were those two dudes that worked for the FBI, and they were considered like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs back in the day. Because they were like, hey, we need to go talk to these guys. Like all the serial killers at the time who had been caught. Ed Kemper was one of them. And it was those two dudes that started the FBI profiling unit. And that's what the show Mindhunter is based on. Great show, by the way.
I came in out of the cold. And what I'm saying is there are some people who prefer it in the cold.
Good people see.
A nice guy.
Did you like Kemper?
I like Kemper.
You were able to appear like a...
He was very well liked in his community. He wanted to be a police officer, but was turned down when he applied because he's 6'9". 6'9". He's huge. Huge, Gina. And he got turned down because he was too tall. And he would go to bars where all the cops hung out. And he was like friends or friendly with all of them. And they all liked him. He was well liked in his community.
Ordinary person, non-threatening to...
I lived as an ordinary person most of my life, even though I was living a parallel and increasingly sick life, other life. One victim let me back in the car. I locked myself out. She opened the door for me. My gun was under the seat.
Just like when we were watching before, I kind of skimmed through this. Watch. He suppresses a lot of smirks and smiles when saying certain things. And it's creepy. It's sketchy.
What in the hell am I doing telling you that? Am I a masochist? Am I looking to be tormented further? I'm trying to show you just how awful this got, how commanding these rages got. I was raging inside. There was just
Exactly, Annie.
incredible energies, positive and negative, depending on a mood that would trigger one or the other. And outside, I looked troubled at times. Other times I looked moody. Other times perfectly serene. Not very sane. But again,
There's T trying to suppress exactly Jupiter's delight. Trying to suppress that smile. He liked that. That entertains him. That inside. Hello, Black. Yes, he is diabolical. And so when he's saying that, it gives that smirk to me. That's saying he enjoyed that. He enjoyed that. He was, it was dark chaos and just like he knew he was fucked up. And he enjoyed that. He gave off this, could often give off this air of, being sociable. The cops liked just like, oh, I'm just a nice normal guy. And he got off on that because he knew he wasn't. In his head, he wasn't. And that smirk lets us know that. Yes, evil is real, and it's all around us. And it oftentimes comes in pretty little packages. What's that? What's that saying? The greatest trick the devil ever played was making the world think he didn't exist. There you go.
people weren't even aware of what was happening.
In 1972 and 1973, a series of murders shocked Northern California. College girls began to disappear while hitchhiking. Two of the victims were picked up from the campus of the University of California at Santa Cruz. That's where Ed Kemper's mother was working as an administrative assistant.
You were involved in the campus because your mother worked there.
Yes. I was also involved in killing co-eds because my mother was associated with college work, college co-eds, women, and had had a very strong and violently outspoken position on men for much of my upbringing. My mother was a sick, angry, hungry, and very sad woman. I hated her, but I wanted to love my mother.
Nature versus nurture. Was he born with that switch off or on? Which, whichever you want to call it. Did his mother, quote unquote, make him this way? Because from the sounds of her, she had some serious issues going on. Was it a combination of both? I don't know. It's the great debate, isn't it? Nature or nurture? How much of a person is just them? Like that's just how they are for whatever reason, and how much of it is their environmental factors? What's their upbringing like, their economic status? Was their household one of love and support, or the opposite? YouTube, I got to be careful what I say. Oh, that's a good point, Black. Black says the rejection of his father damaged him too. Yeah, and I think that coupled with like what he said, like his mother, I think not only had a clear hate of men, but particularly for his father. And, most sons resemble their dad. So, like, was his mother projecting onto him the hatred she had for his father, but like projecting it onto him because the dad wasn't around? There's so much. It gets so dark, but so interesting. The human psyche fascinates me. Yeah, Drilla says it's often thought to be a combination, often with the third factor of there being an organic insult to the brain as well. Yeah, don't a lot of like serial killers, who was it? Somebody did a study and most of them had like some sort of head injury, whether they got into an accident, they fell, they were injured playing sports, like there was some sort of head injury or injury to the brain, and like in their younger to their teenage years, and like all serial killers have it or something. It's weird. Bitch, show it. Hi, Dusty. Are you gonna be in Gigi's later? Because him and Belinda are doing the call-in. I'm gonna be there. I'll be very excited. Let me see. Yeah, Annie says smartest people on this earth can't suppress their micro expressions. Yeah. Yep. It's there. Who was it? Was it the New York Zoo? New York City Zoo? Was it back in like the 60s or something? Did this little exhibit, and it was just a mirror that people could walk past, but they put a sign above it that said, "This is the most dangerous animal on the planet." And it was just a mirror because it's humans. Like, yeah, animals kill each other. They do it out of survival. They do it. Circle of life. Like, there's no reasons for humans to be killing each other. People are cray-cray.
And I watched the alcohol increase. I watched her social life drop off. I watched her get bizarre. She had terrible pain from her life, earlier life, her upbringing, a failed marriage with my father. I'm a constant reminder of that failure. I hate to distill it down into such, into one-word realities like that. There's a lot that leads into that happening, but that is what happened. They represented not what my mother was, but what she liked, what she coveted, what was important to her, and I was destroying it.
Why did you actually kill the girls?
My frustration. my inability to communicate socially, sexually. I wasn't impotent, but emotionally I was impotent.
It's got to throw that in there. My frustration, not able to communicate. I wasn't impotent though. Emotionally, I was, but like that's such a guy thing. Like, okay, calm down. Good for you.
And I'm picking up young women, and I'm going a little bit farther each time. It's a daring kind of a thing. At first, there wasn't a gun. I'm driving along. We'd go to a vulnerable place where there aren't people watching, where I could act out, and I say, no, I can't. And then a gun is in the car, hidden. And this craving, this awful, raging, eating feeling inside. I could feel it consuming my insides. This fantastic passion. It was overwhelming me. It was like drugs. It was like alcohol. A little isn't enough. At first it is. And as you adjust to that psychologically and physically, you take more and more and more. It's the same process.
That's one thing. Like, I think almost all serial killers I've described is they have this, like, this morbid obsession, like Jeffrey Dahmer. It's well known. Because his dad was like a high school teacher, but he was fascinated with like roadkill, and his dad tried directing him in like a good direction, like, oh, curiosity, science, biology, whatever. And that's why they often start out torturing and killing small animals, and they kind of up the ante as they go along until they move on to humans. And then in a lot of serial killers, you can see them change and perfect their MO. Like most serial killers have, it becomes like a ritual, a process of how they would hunt, what victims they would choose. There was a profile with Ted Bundy. I think they all looked like his one ex-girlfriend, and they were all usually petite, slim build, brunette hair of a certain style and length. And and they all describe this overwhelming, like a compulsion, like they can't stop themselves, and it would build up over time, and eventually they would have to satiate it. And oftentimes they would get caught because they would it would become a stronger and stronger urge that they couldn't fight. So they might go from finding a victim once every 2 years to, okay, once a year, and then every 6 months, and then every 3 months. And it's just, and I've seen, a lot of people be like, oh, it's something in the brain. Other people are like, it's a demon. And I don't know, it could fucking be. I don't know. Like, who knows? Maybe it is a fucking demon. Maybe it's both. I don't know. I mean, shit. Oh yeah, there's a lot of factors, Jarella. Yeah, and a lot of serial killers again have some sort of injury to the head and or brain. They came from broken homes, abusive homes. What's his face? The Strangler dude, that guy, way fucked up childhood. And then I think it was his brother had like gone to Vietnam, and his brother came back all fucked up, and that was like what really turned the key. We'll talk about him too.
So it finally came down to the thing of, do I dare bring this gun out? Already realizing if that gun comes out, something has to happen. It was going to happen. I didn't see it then, but it was going to happen. I was playing a dangerous game with a loaded gun. It got us all.
On one occasion, Kemper picked up 2 roommates in Berkeley.
Now, Annie says, Israel Keys is probably the scariest for me. He left his kill kits all over America, then returned later to kill in that area. The forethought and planning is horrifying. It is. And that makes me, thank you for making that comment, because I'd have to look to see if there's anything recent. So everyone knows I live in like Reno, Nevada. I-80 runs through Reno. And again, I had a friend some years ago. She was in college. She was doing this like criminology report. And she's like, oh my God, I think there's like an active serial killer between here in Sacramento. And separate from that, it's been suspected for some years that there is a serial killer going all up and down I-80 because of like of all these similar killings. Because back in the day, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have computer systems, and like a law agency in, you know, Modesto, California isn't necessarily going to talk to one somewhere along 80 in Utah, you know. And oftentimes a lot of these serial killers went undetected as long as they did because law agencies either didn't communicate with each other or there wasn't an efficient way, where now we have national databases and such, and even then things still fall between the cracks. But I've seen I have to look into it, see if there's anything recent. I've seen some stuff about an active serial killer along I-80. And I-80, Interstate 80, starts/ends in Chicago and goes all the way through to San Francisco. So I'll have to look into that.
In that first killing in May of 72, when that gun was pulled out, I launched it out. I had it under my leg, out of sight, parallel to my...
Dorella, I think there's absolutely a spiritual component, right? Because like I'm always saying, everything is energy, right? It's just energy. Like, you know, somebody has weird energy, there's a fucking reason. Spirituality, all that stuff, it's just all energy. I think there's absolutely a spiritual component to it.
To my leg in the seat. It was something that had been thought out in fantasy, acted out, felt out hundreds of times before it ever happened.
Kemper drove them at gunpoint to a secluded area near a park. He took one of them into the woods, leaving the second girl tied in the car.
I just gone through a horrible experience with her roommate, stabbing her. And I was...
That fucking kills me. I've watched this a couple times now. The way he says, I had just gone through a horrible experience with her roommate, stabbing her. You, sir. He went through I had a horrible experience killing her roommate. Bro, fuck, oh my God. Like, that's wild. That's wild. Yes, it is, Nicole.
I was in shock because of that. I couldn't believe that it was that way. And I'm walking back there bewildered. I gotta kill her. I can't let her go. She's gonna tell on me. Everybody's gonna get me. She sees the blood on my hands. What are you doing? She pulled back and she gasped. And I think, whoa, I don't...
Ooh, the way he says this coming up freaks me out. When he's like, she's talking back. She's talking back. Ooh, freaks me out.
Want her to know what happened. I said, your friend got smart with me. She'd been getting really smart with me a lot, but I never hit her. I killed her, but I didn't hit her. I said, your friend got smart with me and I hit her. I think I broke her nose. You better come help. She's about to die. Why does she have to know that? I couldn't deal.
Suppressing the smirk. Again, reliving it in his head. Suppressing the smirk because he's enjoying this.
With telling her that. And when I attacked her, she didn't at first realize what was happening. It didn't go through. She had very heavy coveralls on. It knocked her right up into the lid of the car. But it didn't pierce the clothing. So it wasn't that swell a knife anyway. I went out and bought a pawn shop, huge knife. And I kept on just mindlessly attacking. She falls back into the trunk. I just killed a young woman. I slammed down the lid of the trunk. She isn't dead. She's dying. And I panicked. I thought I just locked the car keys in it because I can't find them in my pocket. Oh my God, I locked them in the trunk. I'm kicking on the trunk lid and yanking on it. Oh no, I don't believe this. I started to run, and I tripped over the gun that I'd had in my pants that I had totally forgotten was there. I stopped. I said, stop and think. I collected my wits. Check all your pockets. I picked the gun up. I stuck it back in my pants, now remembering I had one. I checked all my pockets, and there's the keys in the back pocket. I never put them in my back pocket.
Everyone makes mistakes, and that's what we have to hope for. The more mistakes they make, the better their chances.
I thought I was pretty slick. And when I tripped all over myself, that first 2 murders, the first 24 hours, there were 3 clear times I should have been busted, and I wasn't. Because 3 different individuals or 3 different groups of people got scared and minded their own business and looked the other way.
Some of the people who are committing murders, even as we speak, if they're doing it by themselves and they tell no one about it, they could go on undetected until they decided to stop. And the police wouldn't catch them unless we just happened to roll up on them while they were doing it.
Even with today's technological advancements and like DNA, fingerprinting, overall forensics, the fact that near everybody, like if you don't have a cell phone, if your car is past a certain date, you know, we've all got shit in our car, like they can track you. And sometimes I wonder, like, how many has that deterred anybody? I mean, I don't know. If you have this overwhelming urge to kill people, like you're probably going to do it. But back in this day, in the early 70s, oh my God. I'm sure there were serial killers out there that were never caught on to and that we'll never know about because it was just easier. We didn't have the advancements we do now. I remember being a teenager in the 90s and like, oh my God, DNA, you know. Before that, it's like we found blood at the scene and all they could go by was the blood type before there was like actual DNA evidence. Like that was a big fucking breakthrough. Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure there's at least a few serial killers that got away with what they did just because of lack of technology. Yeah, Nicole Weiss says you don't even have to be the one who committed the crime. It's kind of cool how advanced it's gotten. Oh yeah, and that's why, like, you know, there have been cases where girls, thankfully, they've gotten away, but they were able to prove who their attacker was because they're like, I'm gonna make sure your skin cells are under my nails, and they're just like, you know, if they're bleeding or whatever, they're like trying to get their hair on stuff and rubbing blood all over. They're like, I'm gonna let everybody know I was fucking here.
Even after police warnings against hitchhiking and an increased bus schedule on the campus, Kemper had no trouble picking up hitchhikers. Ironically, one warning advised riding only in cars with university stickers. Kemper's car had such a sticker.
My mother worked at the campus, and I had an A sticker on my car.
Nicole, I love you. Bring the Golden State Killer. I remember that. I remember that day because he lives where I fucking live. He lives in Reno. I'm telling you, there's some sketchy shit still going down between like Reno and Sacramento. Some sketchy shit. Yeah, they found, I forget, they found the Golden State Killer because of like the DNA. I forget how. Again, we'll talk about him in the future. But yeah, that one was interesting because it was like, oh, he was just chilling, living over here. Like, okay, cool.
And obvious access day or night to the campus. I was picking up I couldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, I swear. You know, but they'd be telling me all about this guy, and they're comparing notes and speculating on what.
And keep in mind, back in 1972, 73, it was common. Extremely common. Hitchhiking was normal. You didn't have a car, you know, you needed to get somewhere. It was like, oh, I'll just hitchhike there. And then when all like the serial killers, obviously him, Ted Bundy, use that as a main means to like pick up their victims. I think it was the mid 70s because I was born in 78. But like I remember my mom telling me like because the 70s and 80s were like the decades of the serial killers to me, you know? And I remember my mom telling me about this whole big like public service announcement campaign about don't hitchhike and how dangerous it was and all that stuff, because all the fucking serial killers and all the serial bad no people, it was just like, here, free victims, because everybody hitchhiked.
What he looks like, how he carries himself, why he's doing this stuff, telling me about it.
Nicole, yes. Oh, there's so many serial killers I want. Again, this is a regular series on my channel. Even if you just come watch for this and not my other stuff, please do. Please keep an eye out. I'm always going to use that same thumbnail I used today. And just know we're going to be talking about some good shit. Serial killers, to everything, anything spooky, creepypastas, aliens, ghosts, whatever. I have a lot of stuff planned.
So how come they get in a car with somebody at that time?
She judged me not to be that guy. I didn't look like him. It was getting easier to do. I was getting better at it. I was getting less detectable. I started flaunting that invisibility, severing a human head, 2 of them at night in front of my mother's residence, with her at home, my neighbors at home upstairs, their picture window open, the curtains open.
Oh, I'll still be talking about messy girls. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about.
How are you able to, in 1 minute, have someone's head in your hands and very shortly thereafter?
Living through a fantasy, however that would relate to that severed head. And then 5 minutes later, I'd put that away, and there'd be a knock on the door, and I'd put it away and answer the door. And the landlady would be there, and we'd discuss it.
Discuss what?
Reality.
So like he was disassociating. That's what it does. Like he uses the word fantasy, but he was disassociating. What do you guys think? Hey, Astro, welcome in. Oh my God, Nicole, why? I have looked into I'm like quote unquote researching it, because there's the initial Stanford prison experiment, and then I also want to include all of the things in subsequent years that have been written about it and how flawed it was, and the students that were involved speaking on it, and like how fucked up it was and how it kind of messed them up. Like, there's the initial Stanford prison experiment, and then there's so much other stuff like after. It's a lot, and it's very interesting. That's probably gonna be at least a few weeks out, and that's gonna be a long stream, because there is so much. There's like articles. I'm gonna have to organize everything. There's videos, there's news articles, there's so much. But yes, that's on my to-do list. And the more I've kind of like done some light like research on it, that's gonna be that 3 hours minimum, which is a super long stream for me, but it's gonna be a good one.
Her reality.
Hey DC, welcome in.
Not mine. Some people go crazy at that point. I felt it. It was one hell of a tweak. I mean, to just flip out and not know where I was.
Oh, and I'm thinking of doing like, because Membirbs get 2 members only streams a month, but maybe like designating one of those like towards the end of the month, where members can come up and we can talk about, like, if you want to talk about Ed Kemper, if you want to bring up suggestions, if you want to talk about any of the topics that were discussed, we can just have like a fun open discussion about it or something. What do you think?
To be walking up the stairs with a camera bag that belonged to a young woman that had her severed head in it.
Ugh.
Walking up to my apartment past a happy young couple coming down the stairs who nodded and smiled at me as they went by. Good evening. And they're going out on a date where I'd love to be going. And I'm aware of both of these realities, and the distance between those two is so dramatic, so amazing, so violent. that really, I could feel the wheels squeaking inside. That was really pulling on it. And I imagine at that point some people break, but I didn't literally go insane. I didn't get lost.
And all this time,
How he subtly paints himself as the victim. Like there's this undercurrent of poor me. Look what I had to do in killing these girls and dealing with all it. Boy, sir, that is, it's shit like that that's disturbing to me. The acts, everything, yes, absolutely disturbing. I think it's more disturbing his like mindset and his like view of like himself as the victim. What in the oof? Oh, thank you so much. Oh, are you gonna cooperate, StreamYard? Yes, thank you. Well, thanks for becoming a baby burb, DC. Appreciate you. Love ya. Lanky Annie, how you doing? Yeah, oh yeah. Hey, welcome to the club. Yes, and again, you'll see the banner, heavy topics being discussed. It said Kemper. I mean, it's kind of a given, but he's getting into the talking more about, what he did to his victims. And again, he'll be talking about his mom shortly. And that's woof. But I get poor Ed Kemper, right? Jeez Louise.
Kemper was able to seem normal. He even hung out at a bar across the street from the courthouse, making friends with policemen, trying to pick up information.
They'd buy the actual things, the tidbits.
Nicole White, thank you for being a member for 16 months. Nicole says he wouldn't be quote unquote normal if he wasn't white. I have to say, back in 1972, 73, yeah, you're probably right. Probably right.
That you would pick up from their procedures. But the mechanics behind that, the logic behind it, was I would not allow myself to walk into even a potential trap of behavior. And one of those was talking about those crimes too much to people, initiating conversations about that.
There was a memorial service for 2 of the victims.
Yes.
Were you tempted to go?
Yes.
But
why is that a thing?
I'd seen one too many episodes of one too many crime shows where that is.
Why is that such a thing? I've seen that across the board in so many cases, just varying cases, whether it's a serial killer, it's somebody who took out their own friend, their own family. Like, why do these people, and most of them are dudes, why do they like want to go to the memorial, or they go like help search for the person that they killed? Oh my God. Oh, Mick the combo. Well, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate you.
One of the available resources for clues. Tracking down the attenders. One man taking pictures of the people there to eliminate as potential suspects in the trunk. They come over and ask me about, excuse me, sir, do you know who lives in this house across the street here? Well, that house was 609 Harriet. You cross back over to this side into 609 Ord, and they were looking for me and didn't even know that. See what I mean? Bad news. Well, at any rate, we walk into the house to have them ask my mother about this other house, and I'm saying, hey, which 609?
Yeah, Astro says there was an arson investigator that started fires, then would come back to investigate the fires. That's like a really common thing with firefighters, isn't it? Maybe that should go on the topic list of to do. Might mix that in with some other ones, like, because that's like a known thing that a lot of firefighters, fire investigators, like they start the fires, they then have to go put out, or it's wild. Thank you so much for the super chat, Nicole Y. Nicole says, Paul, could you handle a hangry cannibal? I mean, if I had a weapon of, I don't know. Maybe if I had a weapon of some sort, even like a stick. I am stick. I don't know. Should we do an actual poll on it? Oh, I think everyone can just sound off in the chat. I would say for me personally, because, you know, my spine's all janky and whatnot. If I had a weapon of some sort, you know, even like a spoon. If I at least, why am I like this? If I at least had a spoon, I'm sure I could. Oh, you're welcome, Lanky. Thanks for being here. I know. I went to bed early, set an alarm, got up early so I had time to wake up, take a shower, got a chai, scheduled my stream. Like I woke up with the intention of doing an earlier stream today. So, and I don't know, you might get an early one coming up next couple of days too. But I'm trying. I'm doing it. I'm doing it, Mom. Look at
09, what are you looking for? And they said, are you Ed Kemper? Yes. And it goes on. And I needed to find out what they were looking for, the murder weapon, the 22 automatic, or the 44 Magnum. And I don't want to advertise that I've got a whole bunch of guns.
Oh. Listen, just because you got a whole bunch of guns doesn't mean you're like homicidal or anything. Some people just like guns. I have a 9mm, which I love, and then I have a 22, which I don't much care for. The 22 has like no recoil, no kickback. It's such a like a little, to me, like I have to cognitively remind myself, like, no, this can actually hurt somebody, because compared to the 9mm, 22mm is like so dinky to me. But interesting to know he was using a 22.
I forgot that. I took them in the house. We went into my bedroom, and the closet doors open, and I have a high-powered rifle with a scope on it.
You had some other stuff in the house too, yes?
Yeah. I had the personal effects and identification of the last two co-eds that had been murdered about 2 months before, right next to the guns in the closet, in a box.
Could he have?
Dumbass. And they always have to keep trophies. Well, a lock of hair, a piece of jewelry. Who was it? Was it BTK? I want to say it might have been the BTK killer, which he's a fucking scary one. He was installing security systems into people's houses, right? Like your little ADT, whatever situation type deal. And he would go back and victimize people who he had just installed their security system. And I think it was him, because he was like married, had kids. Again, it, you know, doing the whole facade thing. That he would gift his wife the jewelry of his victims, because he was like in their house going through their personal effects, would find some nice jewelry and be like, here, honey, happy birthday. And that poor woman was so fucking horrified when she found out. I remember when they caught him, I felt so bad for his fucking family. Like, that's just wild.
I back up and said, oh, excuse me. I just remembered stuff. And instantly he responds to what I'm saying. My hand moves.
Oh, thank you again so much for the super chat, Nicole Y. Nicole says, I mentioned it earlier, but Golden State Killer was scary how much he thought it out. I didn't know. Thank you again. I didn't know much about him. But like I said, he was living in Reno, which is where I live. And so, of course, it was like this huge news story about, oh my God, you know, a long time sought after serial killer found to be living in Reno. And I think it's a lot of them planned it out. A lot, not all, but a lot of them do. And it's like what Kemper's talking about, where it's this like sort of fantasy, and it's always at the forefront of their mind, it seems. And I think maybe like the fantasy of it, like playing out in their heads, kind of mixes with like the planning of it, and it kind of congeals into this thing. I don't know. I couldn't imagine, because like your brain and your mind are like two different things. To be obsessed with like any kind of dark thoughts, let alone those of hurting somebody and taking their life. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine being like obsessed with anything where it's like all you're ever thinking about, and you're like physically, emotionally, and mentally uncomfortable until you get like you do the thing or get the thing. I just and then all the time, all the while, having to mimic normal human emotions and behavior, live a normal life, and pretend to function in society. It's wild yet fascinating, which is why we're here. Thank you.
Back we go outside, and you're still thinking, boy, this is a really nice and helpful guy here.
Some of these people do what you and I do to become better killers. They practice their trade.
Didn't Kemper stop himself toward the end of his career?
Kemper says he did. He says he could have gone on. He said he had fantasies of killing dozens more people, of leaving a trail of bodies across the country, and at one point he just got on the telephone and turned himself in. He said it was time for the killing to stop. In his case, he said publicly that it was his mother that he was killing all along, and when he killed his mother, that was the end. It's a very
That's heavy. That's why he turned himself in. So, and again, a lot of, most serial killers are men. Most of them have issues with their mother. They have issues with women in general. Most commonly, rejection, like constant rejection of women. So they develop this like hate, anger, and resentment. And then there's that switch that's off, and they're just bing, bang, boom. Next thing you know, you got an Ed Kemper on your hands.
very deep psychological observation from himself. It may be very accurate.
It was springtime. It was April.
Exactly.
And for 2 months I hadn't killed. And I said, it's not going to happen to any more girls. It's got to stay between me and my mother. And I can't get away from her. We're still fighting. She's still belittling me. I'm like a puppet on a string, and I entertain her. She knows all my buttons, and I dance like a puppet with that pain. And it had even gotten physical, to where I had physically grabbed her and thrown her onto her bed, trying to emphasize a point that I was threatening to kill her. So here I pick up these two young ladies in Berkeley on Ashby Avenue. One has flowers in her hand, petite little dolls. They're in granny dresses, and they're hitchhiking, a couple of real experts. I want to see how together I am, if I can resist this temptation.
You going to Walnut Creek? Great.
Oh my God, fucking Walnut Creek. What? I know where Walnut. I've been there. Because again, I'm just right over the hill from California, so it's real easy. I used to go to San Francisco quite a bit in like my early 20s. Wouldn't go now because it's fucking scary, but yeah, just hop on 80 and you got Sacramento, San Jose, San Francisco. It's great. Just boop, there you go.
And they get in my car. They want to go one way. I know they need to go the other. If they go the way they're insisting on, we're headed right back out to where the first two co-eds were murdered.
Oh.
And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, all I got to do is relax and they'll take me to their death. I've got the gun in the car,
Jesus.
The same one I've been doing it with. I insisted. As gently as I could, I took them where they needed to go, to their college.
Hey, God.
That was 1 week before I murdered my mother. I said, she's got to die, and I've got to die, or girls like that are going to die. And that's when I decided I'm going to murder my mother.
So, like, are we supposed to view him as a hero? Because that's what he's sounding like to me. I've decided girls needed to stop dying because you were killing them, dude. Oh my God. The reasoning is like, it's blowing my mind, y'all. I had such a hard time killing that one girl. What the fuck, dude? And then, oh, I'm gonna save all these girls. And in order to do that, I have to kill my mother. What in the good gravy? Right? Astra says that sent a chill up my spine. It's so, yeah, like I've got goosebumps because, like, just think of his reasoning, the way his mind was working, the view of himself in the situation. Jesus, good.
I knew a week before she died, I was going to kill her. And she went out to a party. She got soused. She came home, went to sleep. I was woken up by that. Came out. I walked up to her bed. She's laying there reading a paperback. As many thousands of nights before.
He's really trying to suppress those smirks. The lip licking. Really, really trying to suppress the smirks now.
And she said, oh, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now.
Okay, so he's crying. And I've watched this a couple times. And I know it might be small on your screen. I'm real tiny down in the left side. I'm real tiny. And this is one thing that is a huge red flag for me. Is if you want to record yourself crying, shout out Laura Lee and be all upset and dramatic and you're shaking your head and you cover your face because there's no tears and you cover your mouth because you're trying to, like, not smile or smirk. There's something wrong with you. And that's exactly what Ed Kemper is doing.
And I knew I was going to kill her. You know?
He's laughing. He's laughing. Look, he's laughing. He's not crying. He's laughing. Look at him. Oh my God.
And I knew I was going to kill her.
He's laughing. Oh my
You know?
God. Oh, it's so. He's laughing. Not one tear. He thinks this is funny. That's sketchy.
And I'm so cold. It's so hard.
He's
And
laughing.
it's the first time in 10 years I've looked at it that way. I mean, that intensely, that honestly.
Oh, his eyes are watering a little bit. He does. He needs an exorcism. Listen, our new pope is from Chicago. And if you don't know, I'm from Chicago. And one of Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza. So now it's going to be in nomine Patri Spiritus Sancti Lou Malnati's. He needs an exorcism. Yeah. Or 5150. I mean, he's in prison, but people like him. This is some sick, twisted shit. It's gross.
And in a rage, I went right back in. For 7 years, she said, I haven't had sex with a man because
Oh my God.
of you, my murderous son. It's one of our arguments. And I cut off her head.
Well, I'm sure any potential romantic partners for his mother, a damper was put on when they're like, your son, who is now a full-ass grown man, is 6'9", murdered his paternal grandparents when he was 15. I think he took them out with a shotgun, and like he went to some like juvenile facility or whatever, and yeah, I'm sure that put a damper on mom's dating life. All right. Graphic warning.
And I humiliated her corpse. It's a dare. You know? 6 young women dead because of the way she raises her son and the way her son is raised, the way he grows up. And what's her closing words?
Look, he's smiling again. And I'm sorry. I had a fucked up childhood. I had a real fucked up childhood. I have trauma brain. I've been through hella therapy. Because I didn't do fight or flight. I did freeze, and I continue to work against that. And I've had to work really, really hard to be quote unquote normal, right? Because like it affects you. One thing I can say is that with all the crap I went through, never once was I like, I want to take out my anger at all the stuff I've been through and hurt other people. No, it set me in the other direction where I had to course correct because there was a time I was too sensitive about other people's feelings to the detriment of myself, and I've had to find that balance. And I worked my ass off in therapy, and that's why now I'm very clear on like these are my boundaries, and I enforce my boundaries. I know so many people that have had like real messed up childhoods, we'll say, because YouTube. None of them were like, well, I want to take it out on complete strangers. And like, what? No. He blames his mother. He was just fucked up. Because look at him. He's sitting there smiling again. Oh, you sick, twisted.
I suppose you want to sit up all night and talk. God, I wish I had.
Yeah, God just says it wasn't until I was in therapy in my late 20s. I knew what I did was fawning. Yeah, I can have, it depends on who it is. With certain people, I'll fawn. But I'm more of like, I freeze up. I disengage. I'm like, just kind of, that's why like, I'm like, it's 8 p.m. I'm going to go disassociate now. And I'll just like go watch a movie and like ignore all the online bullshit and like everything else. I would freeze.
Your grandmother and her daughter-in-law, your mother, were 2 women very important in your life, and you killed them both. Could you say what they were like that led them to the same fate?
Same thing that kept them from ever being friends. They were both aggressive, matriarchal women. They'd been the daughters of strong matriarchal women. I still loved my mother, and it's hard for somebody to comprehend that you murder your mother through love. It isn't a rational process. It's a very painful process. It isn't rational, and I've got to still live with that.
Why did you wind up giving yourself up?
Oh, poor Ed. Poor Ed. The only thing keeping me that I'm just sitting here being like, this man has been in prison since 1973. He's still alive. I think he has like a ton of health problems. I think the main one is, I want to say renal failure, like his kidneys are failing. And I think because I checked, because I'm like, is he still alive? And I believe he's in some sort of like prison hospice, like care type facility now. He's old and he's on death's door. And I guess at least he did turn himself in and no more girls died, then. And again, shout out to those 2 FBI agents that sat there and talked to him and other murderers and came up with the FBI profiling model that not only they use, but again, that all over the world, law enforcement agencies all over the world would go get trained, use it, and I'm sure so many more bad no people have been caught because of the FBI profiling system than otherwise would have been. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying. All right, we're almost done with this one.
It had to stop. It had to stop. Once my mother was dead, there's almost a cathartic process at that point. I got physically ill right then when she died, when I murdered her. And once she was dead, there was no way I could back out. I had backed down from giving up 1,000 times. You know, I just used to get drunk and go sit out in front of the sheriff's department in a parking lot across the street on one of those old concrete parking berms. And I just sit there and say, no, I still can't. The clanging doors, I could still hear them. No, because it'll never open again. Need to. But I look back on that and wish I had earlier when I was saying those things to myself. The people who were later dead wouldn't be. The regret that came later would have not had to be. Those people, not things, those people would still be with their families, with their loved ones.
I love how he's like, those people. Like, he's telling this journalist that's interviewing him. Like, yeah, we understand that, bro. You don't need to tell us that they were people. Young women in college had yet to start their lives. Who knows what they would have accomplished and brought to the world. Children they could have had that could have done something. Like, yeah, we know they were people. Thanks for clearing that up, Ed. Appreciate you, bro. Jesus Christ.
They would have their own families. If I had had the courage to make that decision, instead of painting myself into the corner.
Where might you be if you'd never given in to the impulse to murder?
Where might I be? If my parole had been successful, I believe I'd be married, I'd have children, I'd be heading toward my first grandchildren.
Be heading towards his first grandchildren? Was that... Poor choice of words, dude. Well, and that's it. Well, that was a lot on that. I know, the courage, so stunning and brave. I was a serial killer, but poor me, that is fucking wild. And he's tried to apply. He's tried to apply for parole several times. Obviously, he's been denied, rightfully so. Yeah, I hit my wire, it mutes me, but I hear it and I switch over right away. So I don't. It's just like this wire that came with the microphone. Sometimes I'll like tap it and it mutes me. All right. So that was in 1984. He'd been in prison for 10 years. Let's go. Now, this is only 7 years later. You will notice a stark difference in his appearance. And this is his 1991 interview. And we're going to get through this because I want to try not to go over 2 hours. We got 45 minutes left. So he'd been in prison for just shy of 20 years at this point. And again, he's 6'9". He towered over his prison guards. Like, there's pictures of him, and he was known to be a model prisoner. He even got to a point where he would help administer psychological testing to other prisoners. Like, he became a very trusted prisoner, but was never let out because Yeah, it's not my fault. My mommy was mean to me, so I gotta kill people. My God.
Ed Kemper was detained in a mental hospital from the age of 21 for the murder of his grandparents, but was later released on the advice of psychiatrists. Within 2 years, he had decapitated and mutilated 6 students as well as his mother and her best friend. He sometimes raped the corpses. In 1973, he gave himself up, since when Ed Kemper has been detained in a reform hospital in California.
You got anything for me, Paul?
Oh shit, Vacaville. Oh shit. Or that's
Vacaville Prison near San Francisco is the largest prison.
it's Vacaville, just like it's not Nevada, it's Nevada. Nevada, not Nevada, Nevada.
Prison in the West, with around 10,000 inmates. Ed Kemper teaches computer science here and takes part in a program recording literature for the blind, all of which will help him earn early remission.
God, he's huge.
My younger sister's 2 years younger, and
This is only 7 years after the first interview he watched. He looks like he has aged 20 years, doesn't he? Like the first interview we watched, that was the son, and now this is the dad. Look at how much he's changed. Isn't that wild? I mean, he is in prison, but no, it's Nevada, just like it's Illinois and not Illinois. It's not noisy there. Ne- I think I need to get a new microphone, which if you'd like to support the channel, my links to donate are in the description. Or you can leave a thumbs up. That helps too, because this fucking wire is really pissing me off.
I developed some morbid games. My life had started going that way at about 8. At a certain time of the evening, the family left the center room, the living room of the house. My mother and my sisters, or my sisters themselves, would go up to bed upstairs, where I used to go to bed upstairs. I had to go down to the basement. And an 8-year-old child had a tough time differentiating the reason in that. Why am I going to the basement? I'm going to hell, they're going to heaven.
And what were those games that you played with your sister?
Okay. Well, the one I remember someone talking about in a book was one that was playing gas chamber or electric chair or something. And we had this big old overstuffed chair up in my room. And it was not just my sister and I, it was my sister and I and a friend, close friend. We got into all these games. We got into one game where we'd roll up in a rug and a person would try to get out of it. It's just like a large throw rug. And it was, I guess, what fascinated us individually about it is it was a completely...
I mean, listen, I grew up before. I'm a child of the 80s, right? Like Atari was brand new and not everybody had one. We never played Gas Chamber. Like that wasn't on the rotation of games that me and my 8-year-old self and my brother and our friends were like, who wants to play Gas Chamber? You know, that is okay, sir. I know those sideburns, yo. Ugh, he looks. He does. He looks like he melted. I mean, he's 6 foot. He's 6'9". That takes a lot of calories, right? He's a big dude. But like, damn, he must be eating real, real good, or a lot of. I need to do a stream just about the women that like fall in love and marry these serial killer dudes, especially with that recent guy, Wade, in Florida. Because they all end up with these weird fan clubs. I'm sure even Kemper had a weird fan club, and maybe they were putting money on his commissary because he real chunky. He real chunky. I don't know. I'll see if I can find out about that. That'd be an interesting stream. You know, there was that one young girl who married Manson like before he died. That's some wild shit to me.
It broke up the monotony, I guess, of what we were doing. Didn't have a lot of toys.
Annie asks, what, you mean you never played death simulations with your siblings, Raven? No, didn't. No, not really. You know, we like the normal. We rode our bikes a lot. You know, I don't know, like Terminator. We'd play like Terminator a lot when I was a kid because that was a real popular movie. And like the biggest kid would be like the Terminator, and we'd all have to like run and hide and try escape from him. But gas chamber and electric chair never really, those never really came up.
Ways to play with. We got bored with those pretty quickly. So we looked for things to do. You roll up in the rug and you try to get out, and the other two would leave the room, and we see who could get out fastest. You know, you try to work your way out sideways or scoot out the end of it or whatever. And we went from that to being tied in this overstuffed chair with cord or something, or pieces of sheet or sash or something. And we went through this process. I guess that's back in 1960 when...
I was going to say, this was like in the 60s when he was a kid. So I thought a lot of kids back then played like cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers, and, you know, astronaut was real popular because of the moon landing. It didn't happen. No, I'm joking. But, you know, it was gas chamber. Yeah, sure.
Carol Chessman was executed.
What were those fantasies?
What were they?
Yes.
Possessing the severed heads of women. Men didn't turn me on. That wasn't I couldn't appreciate the appearances of a guy. That when I was young, I was about 8 or 9 years old, I went to this little come on. It was like at a record store or something, and they had this crowd of kids there, and there was a magic show. And this guy, you've probably seen it, the fake guillotine, hand pressed, and they put the potato there, and someone puts their neck in the brace, and they slam this thing down, and the potato down below chops in two, but the person's head doesn't fall off, right? And everybody gets very fascinated by that. Oh my God. And then when he puts the blade in place and he pushes it down, it goes through that neck hole, but it never chops anybody's head off. Okay, so he wanted to volunteer out of the,
So now there's this magical guillotine and a story he's talking about. But before that, well, what? Oh my God. The decapitation of it all. Gata says, I watched, or wait, no. Astro says, Raven, I saw some creative meals made from commissary stuff when I worked in corrections. Oh, there's one guy I used to watch After Prison Show. And back in like 2019-ish. And he went to prison, straightened his life out, stand-up guy now. And he had a whole series on his channel about like all the different foods they would come up with in prison with what they had, you know, whether it was like little sweet treats or savory dishes, and he had a whole series about it. It was great. The channel name was After Prison Show.
Standing in this crowd watching this show, and he wanted to volunteer out of the audience, and some quite beautiful little 16-year-old girl gets up there and this big laugh, and you're all giddy and stuff, and I started getting caught up in this. I said, wow. Right at that moment, I departed reality, because logically, I should have been able to ascertain that that could not happen. You're not going to get away with chopping somebody's head off in the middle of Helena, Montana, the capital city. But the concept of it was so raw and it was titillating. I says, wow, Jake, I gotta watch this. And he had her girlfriend come over and put her hands there to catch her head so it wouldn't fall in the basket, you know. And he was making jokes about this. I got caught up in this interplay between normal concerns. You don't want to get a bump on her head. Well, hey, if you're chopping her head off, it doesn't matter, right? And this is catching in my mind somehow, and I'm saying, wow. The first time.
I mean, listen, as kids, like the concept of death is, you know, like you think differently when you're a child. And I think, you know, all kids, you become fascinated with things, or I think most humans, you know, we all have like morbid curiosities of stuff, but like he's just, it's the way he talks about it, it's like it was inspiring to him. You know, I remember hearing about Marie Antoinette when I was little, and the French Revolution, and like, you know, guillotines and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, that horrific. But he's like, sounds fun. Sounds interesting. Wow, that's sketchy.
Time, okay? The two girls were killed around 6 p.m. By 11 the next morning, they are both completely gone out of my life, physically. All right? That's not even 24 hours. The third murder, which is the second incident, okay? I'm in the middle of trying to get my record sealed, right? Thursday.
I love how all serial killers, not like love, I'm being facetious, like, how every serial killer is very, you know, was the third murder, but it was the second incident. Like, they need you to know the semantics, the statistics of it, and you've got to get it right. That's why I find it very interesting, because most are like, oh, that was victim number 17, and like they remember these details and they know, and it's you have to get the details right, and they want you to know, and they're very precise about it. And I think that's why it's morbidly fascinating why John Wayne Gacy, and he even admitted that he never confessed all of the victims. Again, my mom worked in a laundromat. One of the customers that would come in was John Wayne Gacy's treating psychologist at the time. And after Gacy passed and he had a little more freedom, because, you know, he still abided by patient doctor privacy. But, and it's well known, I think Gacy put it in his book too, that Gacy said, you will never know about all my victims. And when asked why not, he said, because I kept the special ones for myself. Because he didn't want people to know. He said he wanted the knowledge of them and the memories of what happened, that those were his. Those were just for him. Where most serial killers are like they want you to know. It's weird. Just ADHD. Hi.
Thursday night, I killed her. I took off Friday. I didn't go to work. I called in sick, took CTO. All right? Dismembered her body. Got rid of her body, but kept her head in her hands because they're identifiable. They're highly identifiable. I kept those at the apartment. Okay? That Friday night, Thursday night, I took her. Friday morning, she was dismembered. Friday night, she was disposed of. Right? Saturday morning, I left. Right? And I wasn't satisfied that I took the head along in the hands, but I couldn't put them someplace that could be sure they would be dug up by an animal or just be somewhere. It's scary going out there trying to bury somebody or dispose of body parts in a community or out even in the boonies where you don't know where you're at and who can come up at any moment.
It's scary, guys. It's scary disposing of your victims that you dismembered. Sir, again, he's making himself out to be the victim. Wow. It's scary. I'm out. Somebody could walk up, like, you don't know. Jeez Louise, this is why they kept his ass in prison. This is why he never got paroled. Listen to this fucker.
I had some real close calls there where people had come out of nowhere. And if a body's found and they remember this beige-looking car sitting there the night, that's evidence. So it was very, very hard to get rid of this stuff. So anyway, Saturday morning, I went to see
It's so hard, so difficult. I mean, come on, we all know how difficult it is to dispose of a body, right? Did he hear himself? Scary. It was so difficult. My God, I can't believe I had to deal with this. Like, oh, poor me, bro.
psychiatrist in Fresno. Saturday afternoon, I saw the other one. Saturday evening, I'm with my fiance and her family over in Turlock. Sunday night, I come back to my apartment.
Could you tell us how long you've been in prison?
Excuse me. This month is 18 years that I've actually been in prison.
What were you convicted of?
8 counts of first-degree murder.
And what was your sentence?
7 years to life. CC, that's called concurrent. It means all the sentences run at the same time.
2 years before you committed the crimes, I think you traveled quite a lot on the freeways at night or picking up hitchhikers.
During the day.
During the day.
Yeah, I traveled a lot because I'd been locked up for 5.5 years. I had never had a license. Well, I just gotten a license when I got locked up the first time, a Montana license. And so I was free. The driving around was a way to exhibit that freedom, to demonstrate it, to get the cobwebs out of me. When I first got out, I loved to drive. I always did love as a kid to drive. I started driving when I was 10 or 12 years old, but I got a license when I was 15 up in Montana, and then I got locked up, and then here in California, and I got out, got a license, and I just started driving. And that was my main hobby, I'd say. And I saw a lot of people out hitchhiking, and I didn't select girls to pick up. I picked up anybody who wanted to ride. And over that whole 3-year period, it was the same way. If someone needed
I'm sitting here and not just listening to what he's saying and the tone of his voice. I'm trying to watch his body language, and it's very interesting, like the hand movements, the way he leans forward when he wants, in my opinion, certain points of distraction, like when he says, makes like the hand symbol when he says, I didn't pick up girl, like
people out hitchhiking, and I didn't select girls to pick up. I picked up anybody who wanted to ride.
Like that hand movement. I picked up anybody who wanted to ride. Like I was being a nice guy. I wasn't a threat.
And over that whole 3-year period, it was the same way. If someone needed a ride, I picked them up. Unless specifically I was looking for someone to do in. The crimes are, it goes from May to September. 7th. May 7th, Sunday, to Thursday, September 14th. Then it hops over to January, right? And then to February. It's speeding up. It's coming to a head. It's getting to where it wasn't a cyclical thing, but it was coming to where it was
cyclical. Not cyclical. Cyclical, sir.
Coming more often. And something I didn't tell a whole lot of people, I guess I did tell in one interview, shortly before it all ended, I drove up to the Bay Area, and I was living there. I was up in Alameda. I was living with my mother in Santa Cruz and commuting because I had to work up there, and I stayed with a friend. I went out to Berkeley, and I drove Ashby Avenue, one of the places I used to drive, looking for CoEds. And I drove from Highway 80 up Ashby Avenue to Highway 13. The first 2 CoEds I killed were on Ashby Avenue. They were 5'2", slight of figure, you know, we call petite. And one's black hair, one's blonde hair, okay? I'm driving the opposite direction up Ashby Avenue. It's a year later. I'm seeing if I can maintain. I'm not hunting. I'm out seeing if I can maintain. I have a weapon in the car. I have everything else fitting the situation. I'm seeing if I can.
He's a very animated talker. He wants you to believe what he's saying. With the, like his hand motions. I'm gonna watch a little bit more. I have thoughts.
Can maintain. If I can just let go of it and maintain and marry this young lady and go on. I go driving up there, and here's these two young ladies, 5'2". One's got blonde hair, one's got black hair.
So they were tiny. So he towered over these women. I mean, at 6'9", even if he picked up someone my height, I'm 5'8". He's still a solid foot taller than me. He towered over these women. Jesus.
They're in granny dresses, and I'm having shit fits because it's like deja vu. And oh my God, I acted in a way that they wouldn't be paranoid because I'm a young man by myself in this car. I diffused the situation as I drove up. I'd gotten practice at that. All that driving around, it wasn't rehearsing. I made a game out of driving around, picking people up. And later on, I discerned that some people wouldn't get in my car because of the situation. I'm a young man by myself. It's unsafe. So I thought, well, gee, that kind of put me off. I'm not doing anything to anybody. So I want to see if I can change that.
We're going to go another 10 minutes on this, and whatever we don't finish, well, I'm going to go another 10 minutes for stream. I need to end at 1. Mom's coming home. I got to make focaccia bread, all that fun stuff. But what we don't finish, we'll finish on members. So make sure you remember
That situation where they'll want to get in and I can take them where they're going because I know I'm not going to do anything. And I got to where I could diffuse that situation. It's how you're looking. If you look, oh boy, I already start cranking the car over there. They're not going to get in your car because they can see you from half a block away drooling. But if you look at your watch and say, geez, I don't know if I have enough time, and you're kind of in the mirror and looking around, and you pull over, this guy's just a businessman going somewhere, and get in his car, we'll go where we're going. And
the way he leans forward and he talks and he knows he's big, he's physically imposing, very animated, description of his actions. I don't know, I find it disturbing. Like, he's coming off like, I'm confident, I knew what I was doing, and I was in control, and, I manipulated these girls. That's what he's saying underneath this. But then he'll go into, oh my God, it was so difficult. Poor me having to, deal with, having to kill women and then disposing of their bodies. I'm like, oh my God, it was so difficult. It's his manipulation is just screaming through to me, and it's really fucking scary because he's good. He is good. He might have been like he said, I'm a big guy, I'm by myself, let me act all nonchalant, get the girls to put their guard down. Ooh.
Some little games I played so they'd get in the car. And then we chatted, and I talked about things, and I found out where their orientations were and what they used to judge and who could get in and who they could get in with and who they couldn't, right? In that sense, it's been interpreted as what do you call it, rehearsing. It's not true. It's like playing chess and then turning it into something ugly. I played chess casually. I played chess more and more thoroughly till I got very good at it, which was picking up people to where I could make you a bet. I can pick up those two ladies, and they'd say, oh man, you're crazy. Those are two very crafty young ladies who won't get in a car with a young man by himself, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd win the bet because I knew how to diffuse the situation. Even if they asked, where are you headed, right?
That's one thing. I think Ted Bundy talked about that a lot. But again, Ted Bundy was very considered very conventionally attractive. He was educated, well-spoken, incredibly charismatic. And that's one thing all of these serial killers talk about is how they learned to put people at ease, to get people to drop their guard. I think a few women that Ted Bundy took out, he was on dates with them, or, some shit. Might have been, I don't. I need to brush up on all my serial killers.
They had a sign saying where they're going, but they'd ask, or even if they didn't, they'd say, where are you headed? And I had ways of developing it to where they wouldn't get suspicious.
Exactly. Annie says we didn't understand back then the psychology behind their thought processes. Exactly. And I think the profiling, the talking to these guys about these guys, it's really just helped women especially educate ourselves on like red flags to look for. And one of the biggest things I especially tell, you know, my younger friends or like any young women is most times women will find ourselves in trouble or in like a bad no situation because we don't want to be rude. You know, someone comes up to us or you're on a date with somebody or it's somebody you know or what, and you don't want to be rude or make them mad or whatever. And I'm like, fuck that. Tell them no, have pepper spray on you, have whatever means of defense, know how to use that means of defense. Who cares? Like I had one friend, she lives in California, and she's like, this guy came up to me and like I went to Walmart after work and it was like 2 a.m. She's like, and this guy came up to me and was like, oh, I can paint your car for you and da 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 da. And it's like the middle of the night, and she was a big girl, but still like tall. I'm like, don't. I'm like, why? She's like, yeah, I stood there and like talked to him for like 10 minutes and we were like right by my car and he wouldn't go away. And I'm like, why? She goes, well, because I didn't want to be rude. And I'm like, fuck that. I said, do you want to be rude to somebody or do you want to be dead? And I had this whole conversation with her. And I'm like, girl, be rude, and kick him in the nuts.
But I didn't mean I was going to kill him. It meant I was playing a game. And then later, when I started killing people, I used that against them. But initially, it was just a hobby. It was a habit. It was trying to fill in the blanks of 5.5 years of not being in society. I missed that flower child generation. I missed the entry into Vietnam, all that stuff.
Because you murdered your grandparents. Again, playing the victim. This is so wild. Oh, well, I missed that whole thing because I was in prison. Because you shot your grandparents. You killed them. Poor Ed Kemper. Oh, we had it all wrong, guys.
And all these kids are like aliens to me. Yeah, I say kids. I missed 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I'm supposed to be associating with people in their adult years, but I missed a big chunk, so I'm out there trying to fill in the gaps. Find out why these kids are the way they are now, because they were totally different from the kids that I was when I was that age. Totally different. And I'm trying to fill the gaps in, and then later I changed that to something ugly. And why? My mother works at the university. My mother won't introduce me to any young ladies at the university because
the way he's trying to justify his psychopathy and antisocial personality disorder. That's what he's trying to do right now. Oh, I missed out on these years and poor me. And I was trying to catch up and my mother worked at the college and bro. Again, poor Ed. All right, it's almost 1. We've got 15 minutes left of this. We might finish it up on the next swoopy stream. Because I think I'm either gonna do Slender Man or maybe we'll talk about like another topic. It'll be interesting regardless. It'll be interesting. Man, there's a lot here. Fucking Ed Kemper is, jeez, my God. Poor me. I think I can take that down now. Ooh, yeah, and just a heads up, some of these, I mean, obviously we're talking about heavy stuff, so, But thanks for being here. Thank you to everyone for chatting, stopping in, becoming members. But keep in mind, members only streams are for spoopy burbs and higher. Yeah, and leave a thumbs up. I'm gonna try and do. Kick has put out a couple of videos, so I'll see. I don't know. Belinda's been streaming Saturday morning. I'll see who's doing what. keep an eye. Might be later in the day. And maybe we'll try doing a kick stream tomorrow. I might just pop up. I'll try and schedule at least like an hour out. So have a good Friday. I'll be hanging out in Gigi's later. Should be able to. Unless Mom and I go out to dinner. I don't know. I'll see you guys around. Thanks for being here. Please leave a thumbs up. Links to support the channel are in the description. And I'll talk to you guys later. Shout out Replay Crew. Thank you, Nicole F, for super chats. And yeah. Okay, bye.